I don't think you should. I think you should just sit and enjoy the experience. Otherwise, don't bother watching the movie.
Speaking of not working, within a year, funding ran out. I
I'm
guess it's just.
shocked. I'm so befuddled. How could that have happened, Eric?
Oh, that's what we're doing.
That's what we're
Okay.
doing.
Okay, that's what we're doing. Okay, fine.
Are you sure?
It's very odd. You
That's
ever
like
you ever watch dub a movie and find out that it's already been dubbed before?
the subbed is better. That's ultimately
Okay.
all I can say is
Oh, what a new and interesting opinion. The sub is better.
it's a bird.
It's a plane
No, it's Laputa
in the sky.
in the sky.
Well, awkward opening aside. Welcome back to Road to Waifu.
A channel dedicated to all your favorite waifus.
Eventually, at some points, maybe, because I
Right.
don't think we've actually talked about any waifus.
Foreshadowing. Speaking of foreshadowing, today is the first installment of Road to Waifu's Ghibli Fest, Castle in the Sky. I don't know what Eric's counting, but we're counting
Four.
down.
I'm counting four shadows.
Oh, great. Well, Castle in the Sky has an opening sequence that's just oozing with foreshadowing.
But before we dive in, please leave us a comment, like, and subscribe. It does help us a little bit, and for now, it's free. At least until the capitalist overlords take over, and then everything's gonna be expensive. I'm gonna cost a couple
Hold on.
dollars to breathe. I'm gonna
Eric.
cut me a couple
Wait,
dollars
Eric.
to drink water. I'm gonna end up needing
Eric.
to spend a couple cents just to subscribe
Eric.
and click on a freaking button.
Eric!
Yes.
Anywho, on to the main event.
Okay.
Before I dive into my analysis, Eric, what are your thoughts on the opening sequence of Castle in the Sky?
You mean the action sequence, the sort of hook?
I mean, like you call it a hook, but it's like pre-show, quote unquote, credits are rolling, and we get the imagery of Laputa.
It is kind of nice, sort of getting a preamble. We haven't gotten that lately in movies because a lot of times going into a movie, you sort of know the characters almost. I mean, it's this sort of superhero era where it's like,
You gonna do superhero landing? Wait for it. Woo! Superhero landing.
oh, you don't need a preamble. You get all of that information because you watched the last
Right.
movie. But it's the Star Wars effect
Yeah.
where you get a full script on everything that you missed before the movie, and then you jump right into it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess we don't get a preamble in that sense, because to your point, everything is reboots and tentpole IP. But I do think that typically there will be something that plays during the opening credits, if nothing else, to make the opening credits more interesting. But
Oh, fun fact, because we're talking about the opening credits, this is the first appearance of Totoro before his actual movie.
is it really? I didn't even notice
Because the
that.
Studio Ghibli, this is the first movie, so that's why we're here. The Studio Ghibli logo has Totoro, who doesn't actually show up until the next movie.
Oh, that's fair. I didn't even thought about that because uh we're like tackling this in the release order, but I wasn't exposed to Studio Ghibli's films in release order, obviously,
Fun
because
fact, and I will talk about that later. Um, but going back to talking about uh, Laputa specifically, uh, what are your thoughts on like this sort of need, this feeding of the lore for an audience as they sort of before we jump in right into the action, essentially.
right. So this is what I was getting to, where I think Miyazaki, amongst other filmmakers, has very smartly or geniusly used the opening sequence to convey narrative without it being narrative or without it feeling like exposition, which I think is brilliant. So you get just there, it's not even narrated, it's just a series of imagery that makes us understand the history of Laputa and sort of sets it doesn't just set the setting, it also, and this is what I was talking about before with foreshadowing, it also sort of sets up the progression of the movie. You almost in that opening sequence see how the movie is going to play out because there's this rise and fall of this great civilization, and similarly you see the rise and fall of these characters throughout the film. So in a very interesting way, the history of Laputa mirrors the journey that we're about to follow.
And that's honestly really pretty in a way where time is cyclical versus a line like it normally is.
Yeah, and
Where
what I also find interesting is, or at least for me, right? So now we're getting into like how Eric and I experienced the films, cuz realistically, you could go on YouTube and find all kinds of different videos breaking down this movie. We're not really here to break down the movie. This is more us talking about it and how we experienced it. And what I think is interesting is it sort of brings up the question of, a lot of times people talk about how history repeats itself. In that opening sequence, you see the rise and fall of Laputa, and it does set up a paradigm of what's going to happen in the movie, but it begs the question, is this going to end the same way? Are our characters going to meet their inevitable destruction or doom just like Laputa does? And I think that's a very open ended question with this movie because I think you can interpret it a number of different ways.
yeah, and there is, as usual with Miyazaki works, a very non non-violence sort of progression where your villains are looking for the weapons. They're focusing. It's a sort of theme where humanity continues to strive towards progress, even though progress is going to be what destroys us in the end. Because even though some people are just going to see the castle in the sky, others are looking for weapons, and those are our main villains, essentially.
Right. And I did actually watch an interesting analysis of this film a while back that actually did make me think about that specifically, about how the villains are typically the catalyst for violence in Miyazaki films. And Muska is probably the like most archetypal villain in all of Miyazaki's films because yes, you can understand what Muska's drive is, but also it's very easy to point at him and be like, that guy's evil. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah,
Which
it's
is
like, well, it's the funny thing of like someone shows up. It's like in the Phantom Menace, right? When you see Darth Maul, there's zero question he's the villain. You look at him and
right.
it's like, that's probably not a good guy.
Yeah,
Am
right,
I
exactly.
being am I being racist? Probably, but that's not a good guy.
I don't know how. I mean, like, he has a red lightsaber. Like, Star Wars makes it very
Well,
easy for
no,
you to
well, not
tell.
even before the red lightsaber. Like you see the red makeup compared to every other Star Wars character you've ever seen. The like demonic horns off of his head, and it's like, am I racist? Maybe a little bit.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, so I don't actually know what Darth Maul's background is and like what race of people he comes from. But it's pretty obvious that he is
At,
not a
at
great.
least for the most part, Star Wars is color coded, like you said.
Darth Jar Jar!
Anyway, so let's talk about behind the scenes. Obviously, when you look at the movie, the adventure, you obviously see the Jules Verne influence. But let's talk about Miyazaki's early career a little bit. So
Okay.
after working on Heidi, Girl of the Alps, Miyazaki was approached by Toho to create story drafts and image boards to be used as frameworks for TV projects. One such project was Panda Go Panda, distributed by Toho, produced by Takahata, and designed by Miyazaki. One proposal titled Around the World Under the Sea, you can definitely see the inspiration from this. It never ended up going past the script stage, but ideas from that proposal were used for Future Boy Conan in 1978 and Laputa.
It's interesting. I'm not familiar with those works, but the inspiration carries over because 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea is a heavy influence
20,000.
for Castle in the Sky.
Mm-hmm.
So
So, fun fact: so that proposal never became a TV series, but some of it was retooled and adapted into Nadia: The Secret of Blue Water.
that's not a Miyazaki work though.
Well, his ideas from the storyboard were used to create Nadia because Laputa was so successful that Toho took his ideas and turned it into a different project. Retooled being that,
Right.
oh, let's take some of these ideas, let's bring it to a different let's have a different result.
Yeah, and Ano has talked extensively about when drawing inspiration where that comes from. And there's a number of other creators that have been heavily inspired by Miyazaki's work, but I'll talk about that a little bit more later.
Going back in an interview with Miyazaki in Laputa's guidebook, he goes in depth for his love for a series called Adventure King. Interestingly, the name of an item that the Demon King uses in this series to float in the sky is called Laputa.
Oh, so that's where the name comes from.
Yes. There's a direct quote from him. In fact, there is a story where you can fly if you possess a magical stone. That's why I can't really claim my work as original. But I think my idea is different from what Fukushima came up with. There are plenty of things of that kind from old times, such as magic carpets and feathered shoes. In other words, these ideas are commonly found in other cultures, characterized by overlapping arrangements, and does not make sense to present new things. So
I think
it's the
it's
sort of idea where you are taking ideas of ideas and making it your own. Like they're sort of like version, updated versions of something, right? Like
yeah, I think it's
the monkey's paw originally comes from the magic lamp from Aladdin, from
right. Well, not
for
from
example,
Aladdin, it would be
not from
from
Aladdin.
1000 Arabian.
1,000. Yes,
Yeah. But I think it's interesting that he points very specifically to that work as like the place he's drawing inspiration because not only can you make the argument that a lot of Castle in the Sky has Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels kind of vibes, but the Japanese title Tank no Shiro Dapuda literally translates to the Laputa Castle in the Sky, which is almost specifically drawn from Gulliver's Travels. Not that there haven't been other floating castles, but I feel like that's the most notable one that people know about. So I think that's quite interesting.
so before I switch it back up to you, there's one last thing I wanted to talk about. So we're in that sort of post Nausicaa period where they had overwhelming success with Nausicaa, and now they're trying to figure out what to do next. Takahata was doing field work and observing people of Yanagawa, and for this next animated feature. But after observing them, he wanted to do a documentary. But he was having trouble finding funding because he wanted to do a full documentary about these people.
Mhm.
I think I read that they were like a fishing culture, a fishing
In
town.
in in where? Takahata?
Yanagawa.
Oh, Yanagawa.
Hmm.
Interesting. I mean, like all
Um,
of Japan's a fishing town, so
yeah, fair enough. But he had trouble finding funding, which prompted Miyazaki to lend him 60 million yen from royalties from Nausicaa. At the
wow.
time, yeah, it's a lot of money, especially for this period of time.
You
Miyazaki
know,
felt that he owed Takahata for producing Nausicaa, so that's why he did it.
yeah, their partnership is a very interesting one because I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I've done some reading about these two and they work very well together, but apparently they have enough disagreement where other people around them were like, they're starting a production studio together. That doesn't seem like it's going to go well. Like, there was enough discourse between the two of them where people were like, I don't know if that's the smart thing to do.
Hilarious.
So, I mean, clearly something about their partnership works because it's, it's, if it's not the most iconic studio in Japan, it's up there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of not working, within a year, funding ran out. Principal photography was put on hold.
Oh, wow. Okay, that sucks.
Troubled by this development, Miyazaki asked Toshio Suzuki, "What should I do? I don't want to have to remortgage my house."
Yeah.
Suzuki said, "I think you should make another movie." And upon hearing that, Miyazaki nodded and said, "Okay, I understand." He then
Yeah.
presented his proposal to Toho for Laputa Castle in the Sky, at which it was accepted.
It's interesting because the turnaround between Nausicaa and Castle in the Sky was very fast, all things considered, because Nausicaa comes out in 84, if I remember correctly, and Castle in the Sky comes out in 89, if I remember correctly. So that's that's really fast in terms of like conceptualizing a project, animating it, because you also have to understand that this is long form animation. This is
Yeah,
like drawing every single frame animation.
I'll talk about that a little bit more during production because I want to talk about the production of it in a little bit. But
Okay.
the production lasted from June 15th, 1985 to July 23rd, 1986.
Yeah.
So June, July, so about 13 months.
Yeah. And then it comes out in 89. Wait, do I have my dates wrong? Does it come out in 89 or 86? Am I
86.
okay. I'm not great with numbers, guys. So 86. So even crazier because so Nausicaa comes out 84, 2 years of production, well 13 months, I guess. Well, and then
Mhm.
whatever post-production well, not
Um,
post-production but distribution and marketing, and then Castle in the Sky comes out in 86, and it like kind of storms the animation
so
world.
I had to Google it real quick. Uh, Production ended in July 23rd. The movie was released on August 2nd.
That's a very fast turnaround.
That's obscenely fast.
I mean, like, I guess hypothetically, once you're done with the movie, like if I finish a movie on X day, hypothetically, all I have to do is ship it out to the various distributors and
In
it could be on
theory, because
shelves.
there's not a lot of post production, since there's not special effects to be added or like CG, technically, once you're done with production, you could just. I
That
mean,
is
also,
that
admittedly, Miyazaki's the type of person to like be in charge of the process from point A all the way to point B. Like, it's not
yeah.
like he has to reorganize anything
No, yeah. I
because
mean,
any sort of
Miyazaki
like
is
redos are redone during the process.
yeah, I mean, I don't
He,
know that I would
I,
call
I,
it
I remember
redos.
watching something about how he's very particular on his methodology.
Oh, he's very precise. Which is one of the reasons his films I think are so seamless because he's a director among directors, if that makes sense
Not to
to
say he
any
like doesn't make mistakes, but when he decides on a different one, they go all the way back collectively to whatever point that he doesn't like that they moved in, and then moves back forward. So it's sort
well,
of like
so
from A to B.
when you're talking about production, because as a writer director myself, I one of the things that makes production at any stage, whether it's pre production, production, or post production, one of the things that makes it difficult is you have to maintain your vision as the director. Only one person can be flying the plane. You can't have
Right.
a bunch of other people flying the plane. And that's, I think, why Miyazaki's works are so seamless. And to your point, he makes mistakes because everybody makes mistakes. But it's less likely to happen when you have a vision and you stick to it. So that's one of the things that I appreciate about Miyazaki. And he also this sort of segues into the 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 other thing that I want to talk about in terms of the production of this project. Miyazaki makes it a point to make sure that he does like firsthand research on the things that he's creating. So he's not sending production assistants to go and do the research, and he's not sending other like production house employees to find the information that he's looking for. He goes out and he does it himself. experiences it firsthand, researches it firsthand, which brings us to a major inspiration for Castle in the Sky specifically, which is his trip to Wales. I don't actually know what the circumstances behind him going to Wales is, but this trip becomes a pivotal trip for the movie because his trip essentially informs the entire movie. He he essentially crafted the characters in the movie to tell the story of these people from this town in Wales that he visited. And you can see it in the design of the movie. So the movie is essentially about miners, right? Sheeta encounters, of course, I'm going to blank on his name right now.
Pazu.
Pazu. Sheeta encounters, or rather, Pazu encounters Sheeta, really, because Sheeta falls
Right.
from the sky. And he's a miner. He's like the son of a miner. He works in this mining town, and Sheeta becomes involved with this village of miners. And I Miyazaki very specifically wanted to highlight the life of a miner and the difficulty of being a miner and supporting all of this progress that you see that happens in the film, because none of that is possible without the miners who are mining the coal. And he wanted to very specifically make their experience a focal point in the film, which I think comes through beautifully. There's that one shot where you see the sun rising over the village, and the village is set in the side of a hill, and it's very beautifully drawn. It's evocative, and when you look at pictures of where Miyazaki visited in Wales, it's nearly identical, which I think is, I mean, a lot of anime does that. A lot of anime pulls specifically from life. You'll see all the time people take stills from anime movies and anime episodes, and they'll mock them up next to the real life inspiration, and it's like it's crazy
Who
sometimes.
would who would do that? I can't imagine anyone who would do that.
um So I it's I don't really know what else to say. His trip to Wales heavily informs the film, and you feel it throughout the entire film.
So since we're talking about production, let's go right into what found out about some of the production.
Oh,
So
do you actually? I forgot to ask. His trip to Wales was so influential for him as a creator and for Studio Ghibli that it lays the groundwork for another future feature that Ghibli creates.
何
Do you know which film that is, Eric?
um if it's if it's Wales, it would have to be something more European. Is it Kiki?
It's not Kiki. That's an interesting guess, though. I wouldn't have thought of that. It's not Kiki, though.
Porco Rosso?
It is not. It is not Porco Rosso. If you would like to find out which Ghibli film is also inspired by Miyazaki's Wales trip, keep up with us right here with Ghibli Fest at Road to Waifu.
Oh, that's what we're doing.
That's what we're
Okay.
doing.
Okay, that's what we're doing. Okay, fine.
Are you sure?
Finally
Are you sure?
getting
Are you sure?
his
Are you sure?
powers.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
All right, so let's talk about the screenplay. So the original screenplay that Miyazaki wrote centered around Colonel Muska primarily and his ambitions and setbacks.
Okay.
So upon reading the draft, Suzuki and Takahata felt that the story was strong enough to focus on just the Colonel. However, it was a general feeling that Shita and Pazu weren't really characters, and it wasn't as much of an adventure as they wanted to make it. Because they convinced Miyazaki to change the story to then focus on the two younger protagonists. Because Miyazaki really liked Muska.
So originally it was going to focus on Muska.
Yes.
Interesting. I don't know if I would have liked that.
I don't. That's hard to say. We'd have to but that's why the production process happens, right? Because a lot of cool ideas can be thrown out, but the actual process of making those ideas happen is the
Yeah.
difficult part.
Well, there is a theme in Miyazaki's work of younger protagonists. Not that he's like a YA creator, and I definitely don't want to boil down his works to that because young adult in America is really not a great genre. But Miyazaki has I'm pretty sure in all of his works, with the exception of probably Howl's, all of his works have young protagonists. Oh,
I
and
mean, technically,
I guess The
House
Wind
would be a young
Rises.
protagonist.
Well, young being like adolescent, young being like, because that's
Okay,
YA is usually about people younger than I'll generously say 20, and I think
sure.
Hal's is very specifically in his 20s. But I guess The Wind Rises is also not about a young protagonist, but I think those are the only ones.
He does tend to primarily focus on younger protagonists.
So I don't know how I would have
Fun.
felt about Muska being the focus. Like, because it would have just changed the vibe.
It would have. It absolutely would have. But we would have also had more of him on screen, which admittedly he's a very cool character.
I mean, he's fun.
So, the other character of interest would be Grandma Dola. So Miyazaki modeled her after his mom, who passed away in July of 1980.
Wow. That's
So
I don't know. I don't know how to information like that always like we make art for ourselves, you know? We make art for ourselves and then we share it with other people in the hopes that it might impact them, not in a similar way, but just impact them, make something easier for them or help them through something. I did not know that makes her
yeah, so
that makes her character even wilder though, because like
it
was
does.
Miyazaki's grandmother actually like that?
Or his own mom. So during the Let's Watch Ghibli Together live stream broadcast on Nico Nico in August 2013, Suzuki said, "Well, Dola is a model of Miyazaki's own mother. After all, she has quite the personality. She's used to doing various things with her two sons. She died while he was making a movie about a cat, so there was a funeral in the middle of that production. I think it was hard because Miyazaki was saying goodbye to his mother, but I was glad that he was able to model her and draw her in a movie like that."
Who said that?
Suzuki,
Wow. And
Toshio
that's
Suzuki.
yeah, that's their executive producer or like the businessman behind the studio.
Yeah.
Um that's wild. I didn't know that.
So, uh, moving from a very sad, deep
Yeah, way to bring
point
down the room, Eric. Jeez.
to something a little more fun, they so during the production process they need funding from various studios, so they need sort of tie-ins and such, or like some sort of funding from. That's why whenever you watch a movie, if you see a Pepsi or a Coke can, Coke and Pepsi paid them to get that in there so that they could fund the movie.
Sure.
Uh, they got funding from Toshiba and Ajinomoto. Toshiba is obvious. Do you happen to know what Ajinomoto is currently famous for?
That name doesn't even ring a bell, let
It's
alone
MSG.
like monosodium glutamate, MSG?
Yes. Yes. What other MSG?
I don't know.
But they agreed to help sponsor the production costs. However, they were barred from using footage from the film to promote any tie-in products. Miyazaki didn't really want them to do so. But in June of 1986, Ajinomoto released a live-action commercial for a light fruit soda called Lapita Juice.
Oh, I remember that. I mean, like, it never came to America, but I do actually know what you're talking about.
もしも空を飛べたらすごいぞラピュタは本当にあったんだ風の味ラピュタ新発売味の素
There was another company that did something like that recently, where they had various characters from an anime on these like energy drinks. I forget which one it was, but this is like apparently a common happening in
Yeah,
Japan. They
it's
apparently love their
it's great.
flavored drinks.
They do. Ajinomoto also released a Laputa telephone service in collaboration with NTT, and even partnered with a radio station in Osaka that would broadcast Laputa related movie information. But unfortunately, the Laputa juice was a flop, as many were left unsold. I
I'm
guess it's just.
shocked. I'm so befuddled. How could that have happened, Eric?
Additionally, Toshiba sold Laputa Dream themed My Dream video disc players.
Well,
If we
what would
can
that
find the
even?
picture, if we can find the pictures, we'll show it. But admittedly, it might be hard to find.
I don't know that that counts as product placement in a movie though. Like,
It counts. It counts as product placement outside of a movie.
and
But
I would
because
consider that
Miyazaki was because they are very against product placement, they weren't
right.
allowing anyone to like use any sort of like put like we didn't get Laputa juice in the movie, for example.
Right.
Maybe if we had, it would have sold a lot better.
I don't know about that. Because it just sounds like
Like,
a gross idea to begin with.
well,
But
if there was a scene where there was like a fountain of juice on Laputa, and they were drinking, and they called it Laputa juice, and they said how delicious it
sure,
was, it would have
sure.
sold so much better.
I doubt it.
I'm just saying.
100% doubt it. But that all of that to me sounds like marketing, not necessarily product placement. And you do have to do smart marketing, which is credit to them for coming up with stuff that well, I mean, like I guess it is a pretty normal thing for the Japanese to do drinks and stuff. So I guess that wouldn't be too much of a stretch. But the what was it, the CD case or whatever, or the
Mhm.
that's interesting.
Yeah,
Not that we don't have stuff like that here. I guess you could decal your stuff, but to have it's like I guess when they did those special edition Wii's where you could get like a Legend of Zelda Wii that had
yeah.
like
They
yeah.
still do those. It's just you know, this one feels a little niche.
Yeah. A little.
Uh, a lot of niche. But once Miyazaki finished his storyboards, animation production began. Key animation staff consisted of the most experienced members from Nausicaa, along with former telecom animation members. We already talked about the production period, but the only thing I have left to talk about is that the total number of drawings in this movie reached 69,262,
That's a lot of paper.
which exceeded Nausicaa by 13,000.
That's a lot of
So
paper.
it's a lot of
A lot
paper.
of paper, a lot of pencils, a lot of
A
people.
lot and a lot of people.
Yeah, I know it was also quite grueling. I mean, it's always grueling to make a Miyazaki work because he's dedicated to the traditional methodology of literally drawing every frame. So there's no computer assistance there, which is honestly, I think that just speaks to how much audiences appreciate this art form because when you stack up stuff like this against the stuff that we make in the West, which is very much aided by computers and CGI and streamlining of the process, there's there's like a heart and soul that you pick up on as an audience and you just appreciate the work more. It draws you in. Like I rewatched Castle in the Sky very recently to get ready for this episode and it's just the best way that I can describe it is you have no urge to get on your phone, which is what you want to do when you watch a new movie now. Like now you just want to like have the movie on and you're just like scrolling on your phone. You're not even really watching the movie. But with these, you're locked in from the second you turn the movie on. I felt. I don't know if anybody else. Get in the comments if you felt differently.
It's okay. You can tell Morgan that he's wrong, but it is a very great movie.
Eric was
I mean,
scrolling on his phone while he was
I,
watching.
excuse you. I do not touch my phone if I have a movie on.
I don't think you should. I think you should just sit and enjoy the experience. Otherwise, don't bother watching the movie.
But anyway, that's all I have on production. Is there anything you want to add?
I just would like to highlight how influential Castle in the Sky was. So you talked earlier about Nadia and how that was direct inspiration for that. Um, I'm not too familiar with Nadia, but a lot of people from like the very first scene um, can point out the parallels. But there are other works that have been heavily influenced by Miyazaki and specifically Castle in the Sky. D. Gray Man by Katsura Hoshino, heavily influenced by it. And he stated himself that he pulls from Castle in the Sky. Ghost in the Shell, which is like an anime staple, is inspired by this. And of course, all of Shinkai's works. Shinkai has talked in interviews about how Miyazaki inspired him to become a filmmaker. Um, oh, and let's not forget John Lasseter, obviously, the guy who brought Ghibli to America.
Actually, you know what? Let's forget Lasseter.
Yeah, moving on.
So, the Disney-produced English dub for Laputa was recorded in 1998 and planned for release on video in 1999. But Disney eventually released it to theaters because the first release under their deal with Studio Ghibli was Kiki's delivery service, which performed much better than expected on VHS. So that might be why you think you don't like default to Laputa being first, because it's not the first one that you probably were exposed to.
Yeah. No, it probably
But
wasn't because it also Castle in the Sky also wasn't released in the United States until almost a
right.
decade later.
So after Princess Mononoke flopped financially, surprising, right? Laputa's release date was pushed back even again. So the movie was finally released officially on DVD and video on April 15th, 2003.
Wow. Okay, that's
So
way
we
later
skipped
than I
VHS
thought.
entirely. We went straight to DVD.
Yeah. I mean, like, America is so weird about importing things sometimes, and this is still like pretty early in terms of America's importing of things because you know the 20s and 30s were huge in the film industry for America. Um, I mean, LA was on the rise. We were making the shift from silent to talkies. And America didn't like feel the need to import stuff. And then we had the golden era of media, which was the 60s. So importing stuff into America, or America rather, importing things is not the easiest process. So is it surprising that it went straight to DVD? No, not really. It shouldn't have. It 100% should have had a theatrical run. But the question is, like, who's going to finance that? You know, American companies are going to prioritize their own properties over an imported property. It's just kind of
That's
how
true.
it is.
So the year it was released, it was the second best-selling DVD distributed from Studio Ghibli, distributed by Disney, after Spirited Away and ahead of Kiki's Delivery Service. So it sold more than Kiki, but less than Spirited Away.
I mean, I think Spirited Away is still Ghibli's best-selling. I mean, well, actually, I think The Boy and the Heron probably did really, really well. But I don't know if you adjust for inflation if that makes a difference.
I'm pretty sure Spirited Away still blows Boy and the Heron out of the water.
Does it?
I'm pretty sure.
Because that did
It,
really well.
it did insanely well. But Spirited Away did insanely well after adjusting for inflation.
Yes it did. I mean, like it won him an Academy Award. So.
Yep. So if we are talking about an English dub, there is something we do have to talk about.
Oh, is there?
There is. So obviously there is the Disney dub, which features Cloris Leachman, Mark Hamill, etc. Crazy good cast.
Right.
But there's also another English version of this movie.
Oh, is this like a Totoro deal where they like there was a pre-existing one that Miyazaki didn't sign off on or something and they had to redo it?
Correct. Yes. So in the late 1980s, an English version of the movie was produced by the request of Tokuma Shoten by Magnum Videotape and Dubbing. It was first screened in Hong Kong on June 26, 1987, and later distributed on Japan Airline flights as an in-flight movie.
Interesting. Was it
And
the film in its entirety? Because
it was.
Nausicaa had a similar thing happen where when it was initially brought over, it was significantly cut, and Miyazaki was livid. Miyazaki sued, and it was a whole to do, and they had to pull it, and they had to do a new redub of it. So I don't know if this is similar to that instance, but
So I believe it is the full movie, but the edited version of this dub was aired at least once on UK televisions on New Year's Eve in 1988. In 1989, the dub was picked up in the US by Streamline Pictures for just theatrical distribution in some art house theaters.
interesting.
According to Fred Patton of Streamline Pictures theatrically distributed an English dub print of Lapta from March  24th, 1989 for the next year, but Streamline never dubbed it.
Hmm.
Streamline licensed Lapta from Tokuma Shoten in late 1988 or early 1989 and was sent a print from Japan that had already been dubbed into English for use as an in-flight movie. Da, 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 da. But at the time they had no idea who actually dubbed it.
Hmm. Interesting.
People were somewhat disappointed by that early dub. It's kind of obscure and was only officially released on the Studio Ghibli Laserdisc collection in 1996, and the first Japanese R2 DVD release in 2002. So it's actually on the rare side to find this dub. It's very odd.
Hmm.
It's very odd.
That's
You ever watch dub a movie and find out that it's already been dubbed before?
Well, I mean, like that happened with Totoro,
Yeah,
where
they're
it
like,
was originally dubbed by Fox, and then Disney acquires the rights to uh, distribution of Ghibli films, and then they do a new dub, which the Fox dub is just superior. If you've seen both of them, I don't know if it's because I grew up on the Fox dub, but the Fox dub is better.
I have not watched the dub, so I cannot input any information on this one.
I it it's an interesting experience. All I can say is the subbed is better. That's ultimately
Okay.
all I can say is
Oh, what a new and interesting opinion! The sub is better.
especially with Castle in the Sky. This is actually like I don't know if it's a translation thing or a localization thing, but the dubbed, while good, I'm not downplaying necessarily the dubbed version of Castle in the Sky, but there's so much more nuance in the subbed version because you can I don't you just the vocal performances I think are just markedly different, probably because Miyazaki was involved in that process when it was being recorded in Japan. So the voice acting adds more to the film. And then the translation is just a more pure version of the script as opposed to the dubbed, which has to be altered so that the mouth flaps all line up and that kind of thing. So if you are able to, I would watch Castle in the Sky subbed. I think it's a
Right.
much better version than the dubbed, although I still very much enjoy the dubbed.
That's it for me. Is there
I
anything else you
have
want to talk about?
I have one more thing that we have to talk about before we close out this episode because it's insane. Castle in the Sky set a Twitter record. Do you know about this, Eric?
I don't. What's the record?
So this is wild. Castle in the Sky had the TV premiere of the movie, the Japanese like TV airing of Castle in the Sky on August 2nd, 2013. On that day, fans, when that moment in the movie when Shita casts the destruction spell and says the word Ballas,
Mm-hmm.
the entire audience that was watching that day at that exact moment all tweeted out the word Ballas on Twitter and clocked in a record 143,199 tweets in a single second, which is a record that still holds today. That is
That's
the
awesome.
most number of tweets in 1 second ever.
That's so crazy.
And it's not by a little, too. It's significant. Like, I think the runner up is like somewhere close to 100,000 tweets in a second. So this is
That's
just
yeah, that
probably never gonna be broken.
no contest.
Which, when you put into context that the average number of tweets per second is right around 5,700, so 5,500, this
Mhm.
just insane. The
Obscene.
cultural impact of that.
Mhm. That is crazy.
So, but that's what we got for you. Those are our thoughts and takeaways about Castle in the Sky. I love this movie. I love all Miyazaki movies, but
It's a great movie.
this one's really good.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
We'll see you. Let us know what your thoughts are. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and join us here at Road to Waifu for more Ghibli Fest coming later this year.
Maybe a waifu or two. We'll see.
Maybe we'll see. They're Miyazaki films, so we got to keep it classy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's not much choices so far.
All right, we'll catch you guys later.
Bye.